Hey guys, what's up? This is Casey. This is Coach Tom. This is Shot Science Overtime number 110. We've been off for a couple weeks because of filming and some Final Four stuff that we were involved with. But we want to get back to you guys this week with our regular Sunday show, which we do every Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And like we do every time that we have one of these, we have a topic that we discuss at the top of the show, and then you guys send us your questions while we're doing that. And it can be anything basketball related, shooting, dribbling, passing, defense, whatever you want. And we will do our best to answer your guys' questions. So while we're doing that initial topic, you guys send those things to us. And you can find us on Shots, or you can find us on everything. We are at Shot Science or Shot Science on Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus, Snapchat, even whatever you want to find us on. We are Shot Science. So hopefully you guys will send us your questions, and we will talk about today's topic. Today's topic that we're going to talk about is kind of our Final Four experience that we had when we went to Indianapolis. Also want to tell you guys, this is not a regular video. This is a live show. If you're not into the long form stuff and don't want to get all the answers to the questions and stuff like that, then that's cool. This is not probably for you. So wait for another video. But we're going to talk about the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to the Final Four.
We did, yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? I mean,
Yeah, there's some thoughts that come to my mind right away. It's probably the greatest experience that I've ever had, aside from my children and all of that. But it was just an absolutely crazy kind of atmosphere there. We actually went there on Thursday of last week, arrived in the evening, and then started on.
Well, why were we there? Well, other than just the Final Four.
We were there actually because we were working with Wilson Sporting Goods at their booth at the Fan Fest. And we were giving a little basketball demonstrations, and we were giving tips and whatnot to some of the kids and that came through to shoot free throws. In their booth, they had a free throw key set up with a basket, and if you made 3 out of 4 free throws, then you got to use their digital ball, which is a new ball that they're working on. And I'll let Casey tell you more about that. But we just had a wonderful time there, and so many other things that kind of took place as a result of that. We ran into coaches, college coaches that we've known for a long time. Most of them we ran into when we were having meals and whatnot, and we saw a lot of personalities. Their basketball personalities, TV personalities during that time. And so it was really interesting to see. The crush of people was unreal. In the Fan Fest, we were kind of pushing numbers around and talking to different people that were there and been there before. And one of the things that came out of it was that we figured that there was somewhere between 60 and 70,000 people that went through the Fan Fest in the 4 or 5 days that we were there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge convention center. Buick had a big spot. Capital One had a big booth. There were just tons of kind of fun things for families and people to do while you were there. And Wilson, they were selling their basketballs because they're the official basketball of the Final Four.
Right.
And so every game played, the Final Four and the national championship game, they are using Wilson basketballs. And so the Wilson people were selling those balls. We were part of kind of like their exhibition, I guess was what you would call it. They had like a little free throw lane where you could shoot free throws. And like you said, people could shoot a few free throws. And if you were kind of did well enough, you weren't shacking it, you could try out the digital ball that they're developing right now, which is really cool because it's something where it will help track your makes and misses. It'll allow you to play games, like beat the ghost or whatever, kind of stuff that they have, buzzer beater. There's a lot of kind of cool stuff that they're integrating into the basketball. And so definitely keep your eyes open for that. But, just thousands of people just coming through every day. And, I'm sure that there was thousands of shots shot on that single basket.
Well, we were kind of talking about that one day, and I would expect that there was probably maybe 10 or 15,000 shots that were taken at that basket over that period of time. And it was just a great atmosphere. Noisy, very, very noisy in the convention center. And a couple of times during the days, we go out outside of there and leave the convention area, and we go out on the street. Casey can tell you a little bit more about that. But one of the things that when we went out, you could not believe the lines of people. And I think somebody heard that it was taking people an hour and a half to get inside of the actual convention center. They were all in lines.
Well, I mean, just the amount of people there was crazy. Just in our hotel, between the hotel and then the convention center, I mean, it was insane because in the convention center there would just be a line, 8 people wide, 100 and something people long, and it would fill up the entire halls of the convention center. You go outside, and there would be people just straight through from the front of the convention center all the way back, two blocks. They're having a block party. CBS had their kind of analysts tent right there where they were doing all the broadcasts and everything, and had Jalen Rose and Wally Zerbiak and all those guys there doing their broadcasts and everything. And then you get to the hotel, and we actually stayed in the Omni, which is where all the Wisconsin players were. And
fans.
Yeah, and the fans and family and everything. And it was insane in there because there was always a sea of red people, red shirted, red sweatshirt, Badger shirts, all that inside of the Omni, like in the lobby and everything. If the players were going anywhere, they shut down the hotel essentially, and you couldn't go in or out unless you had a key that had the Final Four on it from the hotel. And then I guess I wasn't there when they won, but you were.
Yeah, I was.
And I guess the whole place was freaking out there.
Oh, our room was on the 7th floor, and I could hear all of this revelry that was going on down in the lobby. It was just madhouse in there. And, the thing kind of funny too, is that the day that the Wisconsin team was going to go to the
national championship,
to the national championship game. Is that an arena or just a dome? I don't know how
stadium
or stadium, whatever. But anyway, they were all massed around the bus, all these fans. And when the players or coaches would come out of the hotel, there was this tremendous cheer that went up.
Well, that was even when they went to practice. Though.
Oh yeah, practice and the games. That was just nuts. And then in the lobby area, there was always hundreds of these people in their shirts, and they were chatting and whatnot. And on the mezzanine level, which is the second level or the first level up, interesting, that's where the guys had their meals. And so this was probably about lunchtime. A player would come out of the onto the mezzanine level, which you could see very clearly, and these great cheers went up for that particular player. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah, and like you said, we would go to dinner or eating lunch or whatever, and we'd sit next to Kenny Smith. There was a bunch of college coaches there. Coach Bobby Williams from UCSB, who we know was there. I saw Scott Pelley at dinner one time, the nightly news guy, and just Wally Zerbiak walked through when we were doing some street team demonstration thing. It's just crazy. Jalen Rose was there, but it just seemed like everybody and their brother was there, and you could see all these people you see on TV all the time that were just walking around. It was pretty cool.
And from our hotel room, we looked down on where the bus was on the street there. And as you look a little bit beyond was that CBS sports. I don't know how you would characterize
there was CBS was by the convention center, and then Sports Center, ESPN was right down below us.
Yeah, but we're looking down on both of them. And so, and it's kind of funny because I was watching ESPN on television, and I'm thinking, well, the camera was pointing back and you could see Lucas Oil Stadium. And I thought, well, where are they located? And finally I figured out that they were located right down there below us.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was an awesome experience.
Yeah. And so we worked the booths at Wilson, just kind of working with people, helping them with their shooting and other, going through our demos. The Wilson people were super cool. And then they surprised us by sending us to the national championship game, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And got us really good seats. And so we got to sit there and watch Duke and Wisconsin from not too far away, really.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
In a sea of Wisconsin fans.
Yeah, we were probably 125 feet back from the court itself, and close enough that you could see pretty good. And there were some of the people that were up into the rafters that were just, they looked like little bitty people. They were so far away. I don't know how much seats up there were, but it was crazy.
Well, they said that there was 70,000 people in there.
Yep.
at that one time, 71,000, something like that.
Right.
And it was cool because we were closer than at least 60,000 of them.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so I mean, it was super cool, and just like the atmosphere there was insane. And if you guys have a chance to do that, you should definitely do that. We did our Snapchat the whole time while we were there. I might post that stuff on YouTube. I'm not sure. Just kind of all of the Snapchats put together. But if you guys want to follow us when we do stuff like that, definitely make sure you follow us on Snapchat. Yeah.
Well, there were so many things going on. When they had the national anthem played before the game, it was all done with horns, and it was just beautiful. And then all of a sudden, there is an eagle flying around inside of the stadium.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
And everybody was cheering, and it finally lit on one end of the gymnasium, or the stadium where its caretaker was, I guess. But there weren't.
It landed at like the perfect time, like as the national anthem ended. It was like, what?
Yeah, like it knew that was a cue. The other thing that was really amazing is that I would be willing to bet there was probably 2/3 of the people that were in there were Wisconsin supporters, because they were all in red and they were everywhere. And the Duke supporters were blue, and they were dispersed in and out.
Well, they were kind of behind the basket too.
That was students back there, but there was an equal student section down on our end, which was Wisconsin. But it was amazing. We spent a lot of time standing, just because everybody else in front of us stood up when there was some exciting play that was taking place. And so it was just an incredible experience, just going to the game, and then all the other things.
Yeah, but I mean, like everything too. Like you walk out of the hotel, it's packed with people.
Yeah.
You walk out of the hotel, walk down the street, then you have to go under this overpass thing, or under this bridge or whatever. And then there's like a DJ underneath the bridge.
Yeah.
There's disco balls hanging from the ceiling. Then there's like these performance art people down at the other end, and it was just insane. And you can see it if you look at our Snapchat stuff. But then you get up to the stadium, and there's just like this sea of people. And you took a picture with a guy wearing a dead badger on his head.
Yeah.
Taxidermied badger. And then there's dudes with big blue mohawks for the Blue Devils, and it took us probably like 15 minutes to get inside. And then you get inside, and it's like the biggest building you've ever seen.
It's incredible.
And it's just filled with people and everything. And then, like you said, the national anthem was insane. The eagle like flew out of nowhere, and then it landed right as it ended. And then every time that Wisconsin was trying to get amped up, everybody jumped up and was just like chanting and everything. And then Duke had like their contingency too, but it wasn't nearly as big.
No.
And then being there, like when the game ends, and you always watch it on TV, like when they do like the final moment, or what is
the
song?
Awards?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the song thing that they do at the end, and the confetti is everywhere. Coach K's out there, and they put up the little podium thing that they can go stand on, and they cut the nets down and all that. That was like right there in front of you. It's weird because it's so much smaller when you're there, and you think it's huge because you see it on TV, but it was cool. And then we left, and we went back, and the lobby in the Omni was completely different by the time we got back.
Yeah.
People were not happy, but
no, and there wasn't that many people in there really compared to when they had won the game against Kentucky.
Yeah, but I mean, we left pretty much right afterwards, so
Yeah.
maybe they were still waiting to get back.
Yeah.
But I mean, even before that, when we were in the hotel, I know I ended up in the hotel elevator with one or two players occasionally.
Yeah, I did too.
I think you did too. And then there was times when there was one time where we were walking down the street trying to get an Uber back to our hotel, and we bumped into these guys who recognized us from YouTube, and they came up and said hi and said that they watch our videos and everything. So we took a picture, and I put that on Instagram if you guys want to see that. But it's cool to like run into people that know you, and you don't know them necessarily, but they've seen your stuff online and everything, and that's really cool. And we had a few people come up to us in the booths and say stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, that was really cool.
It was, There was one coach, he was an ex-college coach that came up to us at the booth, and he recognized us, and he said he watched our stuff on the internet often, and so it was kind of nice to chat with him. We talked about different things about basketball, and then he brought his daughters up and introduced them to us, and it was just really a great situation. Probably one of the most delightful things of all, though, is when we went out on the street. I'm gonna let Casey tell you about that one. That was awesome.
Oh, just the like
The
street
street,
team
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Wilson had kind of this idea to do like street team skill stuff where they would send us out on the street with a bag of Wilson gear. We'd have basketballs, shirts, wristbands, and headbands, mini basketballs, and mini hoops, and things like that. And we were asking people that we met on the streets, a bunch of kids and stuff, and a few college students, but
Yeah.
we would ask them if they would show us their skills, and they could shoot a few shots on the mini shot, show us their best dunk face. They could do some dribble skills and show us kind of their ball handling moves and everything. And then we'd give them some Wilson gear at the end. But it was really cool because so many people were up for it and they had a really good time, and it was cool to be able to give, especially like little kids, give them like an actual basketball and be like, here, this is yours. And it's like, it's $60-$70 basketball.
Yeah,
So,
sometimes people would come by and they would ask, "Oh, do we have to pay anything for this?" "Oh, no, this is for free." And so it was really cool how they would take and dive in, and there was even some older people, like Casey was talking about, some college kids, but there was even some older ones than that kind of got involved. And we had a couple of young men came by, and they were probably, I don't know, early teens, mid-teens, something like that, and they both had physical difficulties, and they had so much fun. They actually came back for a rerun, I think, a little later, but they had so much fun just in doing these little. They weren't silly things, but we had, you could spin the ball on your finger, that was one of the skills. If you had great, or if you had ball skills, they get down and they have a chance to put through the legs and all the rest of that. And everybody had just a great time and went away pretty happy. Usually our things would only last us about 20 or 30 minutes, and then it was all gone.
yeah, I mean, we went out there with like a big sack of stuff,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of fun.
It was.
But if you guys follow us on our different social media sites like Facebook and Google Plus, or especially Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, you can find out when we're doing stuff like that, and you can come by, and you might get some free stuff if we do that kind of thing, and we'll let you know about that. So make sure you're following us on that stuff. Also, we'll say that Wilson, like all the people at Wilson, were super awesome.
They were awesome.
Every once in a while we deal with kind of like corporate people and kind of more businessy in people, and they were nothing like most of those people that you run into. They were very cool, also very into skill development and helping people get better and kind of doing things the right way, which is cool. You don't always run into people like that, I don't think.
Yeah, that's the truth of it.
So we kind of have a newfound respect for Wilson basketballs and Wilson sporting goods and stuff.
Yeah.
So definitely check that stuff out. And while we were there too, we ran some social media contests and stuff. And like I said, if you follow us, you guys will be the ones that know about that kind of stuff. And we gave away a tube of 5 basketballs to one person, and some other Wilson basketball stuff. So make sure you follow us. There's a lot of cool things that we get to do with those people. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not
much more.
I'm not going to cut it off there. I need to ask people to start sending us more questions before we jump into things. Just let us know some things that you want to know. If you want to know more about the Final Four, if you have a specific question there, if you want to know more about some basketball skill development thing, send us your questions. You can leave them in the chat on YouTube, on the Q&A here in the Google Plus Hangout. You can also send them to us through Twitter, and we will do our best to answer any of your questions. I know we've been off for a couple of weeks, so it's going to probably take people a little bit to kind of get back in the flow. But there's a few people. Melissa's asking, how was it? Cole Rodriguez is asking, what was the city like afterwards? We didn't stick around very long after the game, the national championship game. The game was over probably 11:15, something like that.
Yeah, it was.
Probably took us about 30 minutes to get back. Then we had to wake up at 5 a.m. to catch a plane at 7. And so we didn't stick around, but afterwards, the whole street, I think most of the Duke people probably stayed in the stadium for a little bit longer, but the Wisconsin people kind of filed out, and it was a little bit less raucous on the way back. But there was still the DJ in the tunnel, and all that stuff was still going on. And then we got back to the hotel, and like I said, there was like a bunch of dejected Wisconsin fans.
Yeah.
But then, we woke up in the morning. There wasn't anybody else around. It was raining, and then we left.
Yeah. There was nobody up that early in the morning.
Well, there was. I mean, there was people at the airport and stuff. But
Well, yeah, at the airport, but the hotel itself was, you were pretty much alone. One of the things that was kind of interesting for me is that after the first game was played, the first two games were played with Michigan and
Michigan State and Kentucky
and Wisconsin.
And
When those teams lost, Kentucky and Michigan State, their fans disappeared. They were gone. And from what we heard, the teams were gone too, very early the next morning. And so,
except for Coach Calipari, because he stuck around and he got some Hall of Fame recognition, and then he got booed.
that was embarrassing almost.
Yeah.
They're out in front of 71,000 people at halftime, and there was 4 or 5 different.
It wasn't halftime; it was during one of the breaks. But
yeah, well, they were introduced as members of a
Hall of Fame inductees. Yeah,
right. I think it was the College Hall of Fame. I think, and when Coach Calipari's name was announced, there were so many boos you couldn't believe it. I mean, it just resounded everywhere.
Well, it's interesting too, because it seemed like the Kentucky fans were maybe the kind of most dedicated and craziest. And we were at the Wilson booth, and they sold basketballs that had the logos or the mascots of all the teams that were participating in the Final Four there.
Mm-hmm.
And Kentucky, I guess, sold out right away.
Yeah.
And then they lost on Saturday, and most all the fans left. There were still a few, but not very many. And then I think it was like Duke had sold a bunch of them and sold out, and then Wisconsin, and I don't think Michigan State sold out, but there was a very, very obviously large amount of Kentucky fans there that then just disappeared.
Yes.
And then even the fan fest was thinned out just because of that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that kind of stuff. Like teams just like you figure that people go to that and they want to experience the whole thing, but then as soon as their team loses, they are just out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and they have to buy. I guess they have to buy tickets for both the first game and the championship game as well.
I have no idea.
Well, I think they do. Well, I don't know that you'd have to, but I bet they did buy them, because there were all kinds of people on the streets, on the street corners, buying tickets from people and asking if you got tickets to sell. And then they would resell them to other people who were coming in. I can remember I was telling Casey, I heard this over in this conversation between a couple of young guys from Wisconsin, and the discussion was like this. Yeah, I talked to so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, and they're all coming down for the game. And so I imagine that there was a real influx, and there had to be, because there were so many people in that stadium for the basketball game that were all in red, definitely supporting Wisconsin.
Yeah. And, I don't know, what was your favorite part of the whole thing?
Well, the game was really special because I've never seen anything like that before. And the first time I was telling the lady who was with Wilson as we were walking to the stadium beforehand, I told her, I said, I was kind of looking at my bucket list a few weeks ago, and this game was one of the things that I had on my bucket list. And now I could take and line it out because it's been done. But it was just really special, and just all the different things that were going on around on the streets. When you walked in that area around the downtown area, the streets were just packed, shoulder to shoulder, people going one way and the other way, and it was an awesome experience. Bands were playing. It was wild. It was a celebration.
Yeah, so it was very cool, and if you guys get a chance to do that kind of thing, definitely do it.
Yeah.
It might be a hard thing to make happen, but if you just do it once, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I think we'll wrap that up. I think we'll jump into questions right now. we need you guys to send us some more questions. So make sure that you send us your questions either on Twitter, where you're at Shot Science. You can do them here in the Google Plus chat, or you can send them to us on Facebook, wherever you want to send them to us. Just shoot it over. And if you could, go tell your friends and family to check us out, especially after we've been off for 2 weeks, and help us get some more people over here for the live show. But we're going to jump in now, and we're going to go to Facebook first. And this one is from Yushia Blue. I guess that's how you pronounce your name. Hopefully I didn't screw it up. But they say, hey, coach, I want to improve my mid and long range shooting. I was wondering if I could send you a video of me shooting some 2s and 3s, and if you could help me shoot more smoothly and faster. P.S. Your videos are really helpful. Hope that more is coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Sure. We can do that. The one thing that is really important is that people will send us videos, and I don't know what they call it, but it's kind of a reduced screen and you really can't see anything. You know what I'm talking about? And we really need to see this when you send us a video. In order for us to help you, we need to be able to see you clearly. We don't have to necessarily see the basket, but we have to see kind of the flow of the ball or the arc of the ball when you shoot it. And you should take and shoot that from all 4 sides, front, back, right, and left, so that we have a chance to kind of look at that from several different angles. And it shouldn't be any longer than about 2 minutes max. And we'll take a look at it, and we'll get back to you and tell you what we think would help you. And if you want to improve the shooting from the 2s and 3s, most people tend to have problems with power. And I've answered several questions this morning, people talking about my mid-range is really good, but as soon as I move out to the 3-point line, then I'm short and flat all the time. Well, that typically is a problem with generating enough power from your legs and then connecting it to your stroke when you shoot to be able to get there. Because if you are, I would say anybody who is 11, 12 years old has the power, unless they're really, really, really small, has the power to shoot a 3. It's just learning how to do it.
And also progressively working yourself back too, because you don't want to just jump in and go, start shooting those short, close shots and then jump back to 20 feet and shoot the 3-pointer. You want to make sure that you're kind of progressively moving back. So starting close, use something like the form shooting drill, master those close shots, take a step back, master those shots, take a step back, and kind of work your way back. If you're just jumping all the way back, your mechanics are not going to be there because you haven't put in the work to really have everything connect, have the power, and have kind of your technique really to the point where you can step back to that distance, right?
I think there's a mental element in that as well, in that as you move further away from the basket, if you haven't built that up like Casey's talking about, what happens is that let's say you go from 14 to 19 or 20 feet, you think you have to get more power, and you do, but you don't want to get that power out of the arms. Because what happens is that as we do that and try to get more power, we rack our shoulders, and usually the accuracy of the shot is really off.
Well, it's a heave, and
it's a heave.
If you remember this is kind of important, is that your lower body, your legs, and kind of your lower chain, that's where the power and force and stuff is generated.
It is.
Your upper body is where the finesse is,
and the guidance.
The finesse and the guidance, because if you have the finesse and guidance in your upper body, then you're going to have more accuracy. If you're allowing kind of the force and the power to get up into the upper body, that's when you're going to be way less accurate. Your shot's going to be flat. It's going to be real lively. And you just don't want that. You want your shot to be very soft, very gentle, and kind of precise.
And you can tell what that all looks like by how it feels. We go really big on just how the shot feels, and I'll ask people that I'm working with, did that feel underpowered? Well, yeah, it did. Okay, do you know what's going on? Well, we've explained that to them, and so they know what's going on, but it's not always so easy to get those legs connected to the shot. Here's another thing that really affects your shot as you move away from it, and you wouldn't think about it very much, and that is the offhand, especially the thumb of the offhand. When we feel like we have more or need more power, what happens is that we try to get that hand into the shot as well, and the thumb usually comes across the basketball and causes it to have sideways rotation. And so what we do is we really encourage people, and when they're shooting, is to allow that hand to fall away and let one hand your shooting hand be the one that directs the ball to the basket. You've got plenty of power. And this hand that some people refer to as the guide hand, we refer to as assist hand. We also kind of humorously call that the screw up hand, because oftentimes it's screwing up our shot.
Okay, and if you guys want to find out more about that, go to our video on the guide hand,
Okay,
or
all right.
assist hand.
Long-winded Tom.
And the other thing is too is that it's very important for you to also, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, the 3 pillars of practice. If you approach your practice this way, it will help you greatly in kind of getting your shot dialed in from those close range and long range. So you want to make sure that you are approaching it. First pillar is dialing in kind of your mechanics, using something like the form shooting drill, really working on just refining all of your mechanics. Second pillar is game speed, game intensity. And that's where you really step things up. Maybe you get a defender, or you kind of pretend like there is a defender, and you make sure that you're kind of doing everything game speed and game intensity, and as if you were in a game. Then the third pillar is just getting game experience, so that you get out there, you actually are playing and using those skills that you built in the first pillar in an actual game setting, game experience. Yeah. And that will help you kind of have it there when you need it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we would say in terms of developing this mid-range and long-range shooting, and kind of getting yourself more consistent and smooth and all that stuff. Okay. And let's go back to the comments here. This one is from Andy Pham, who says, "This isn't about the Final Four, but can you please help me build a consistent shot?"
Well, one of the things that we would tell you is this: go to our shooting playlists on our YouTube channel and start developing your shot kind of along those lines. We think those are pretty solid elements, and you start in close. One of the things that Casey mentioned a few minutes ago, which is a key to this, is once you kind of have the elements of your shot put together, then what you want to do is take and use our form shooting drill. And with that form shooting drill, you actually develop the skills that you want to become a matter of muscle memory. Usually when you start a new shot like that you want to be consistent and effective, is that there's going to be some breaking down time where you're going to break down some of the skills that you've been using because maybe they're not as effective. And so you reestablish new ones that are going to reflect what it is that you are going to make you a better shooter. And you do that with the form shooting drill.
Right. And, really consistent practice gives you consistent results.
It does. Consistent using good elements of your shot. I had somebody the other day say, well, I make baskets and I don't do all that. Well, my response is that everybody's different. And if that works for you, then I wouldn't think about changing. But if you're not happy with it and you want to see it become more effective, then maybe you take a look at what we do. And if it works for you, cool.
Yeah. Let's see. What was I was going to say one more thing about that, but I can't remember now. Anyways, Mr. Thunderbird says NBA MVP. Steph Curry.
Absolutely. Steph Curry. Yeah.
You can't ask us that. We're Warriors fans.
Yeah, we're Warriors fans, but even if we weren't, I think it'd be hard to pick somebody else over him at this particular point.
Yeah, I mean, his team is doing really well. Yeah. He's doing insanely well. Okay, this one is from, we want to know who you think too. So if you guys have thoughts on who your NBA MVP is right now, put them in the comments and let us know. Yeah. You might not agree with us. We don't know. Let's see. Caveman Venom 4 says, how do I not get sore after practice?
Depending on, number one, probably if you're in shape, then usually you're not going to have an awful lot of soreness. But one of the things is that those muscles that are sore would be good to take and spend some time using a foam roller and rolling those out, because sometimes that soreness is due just to the fact that the muscles have got those adhesions and you want to be able to relax those. And when you relax them, then some of that soreness probably go away.
I would say too, just being consistent, you will be less sore. Do some dynamic stretches that we talk about kind of in the vertical jump video. Excuse me. I would say also drink a lot of water and do a lot of rest and recovery too.
Right.
I mean, that's really kind of what's going to help you with soreness.
Yeah, and I've found that soreness usually is a result of you not being in very good shape. And then once you kind of get in shape, and you do that stretching and the foam rolling, then you have less of that soreness usually that affects you.
Okay, this one is from AJ Adams Camacho. He says, "So how many shots from each distance would you say before you go further out?"
You know,
So you're just consistently making them. I
yeah.
mean, I think it's different for every person too, right?
Yeah, well, it is different for every person. And the thing that's really important to understand is you don't want to put limits on how many that you need to do before you start to show effectiveness. What you want to do is assess that yourself as you're shooting. One of the things that we do when we're working with the form shooting drill, we tell people we want you to make 10 at each one of those spots. But the rule is they have to reflect the elements that we've helped you with. And if they don't, then you don't want to use them because you're trying to establish some muscle memory there.
But
So maybe that's maybe, and in the form shooting drill, if you just go through that cycle one time, that's 90 makes, but it's probably 120 plus shots to make those in the beginning.
But I would also just say that, like, you don't necessarily start out close and then move back to 3-point land in the first session.
Oh no.
I think that it's something where you need to work kind of close in, maybe, stay within 8 to 10 feet for a while until that is just like lockdown, like you're not missing anything there. Then step back and you can start working more. It's something that you progressively should get to. It's not like a one day, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to bang out these 4-footers, and I'm going to work myself back to the 22s, and I'm going to be ready to go. It's not like that.
No, it takes time to develop all of that. And that's the thing that sometimes really,
people rush themselves way too much.
They do. And they're in a hurry to get it fixed so they can be more effective. But the reality of it is we often tell, in fact, we tell everybody that we work with that we're not going to see much effectiveness from you as a shooter in a game situation until after you've spent about a month working on all of this stuff. Then you're going to start to see that it's going to pay off a little bit.
Well, you'll see it in practice earlier, just because you don't have the kind of the stresses of all the other variables.
Right.
But after you put in the work, dialing everything in, then doing the game speed, game intensity, which is really going to help, because then it's like you step it on the floor, you've actually been there before, and get the game experience. Then you'll really start to see the turnaround. If you think it's going to be a 1 or 2 day thing or a week long thing, that's really kind of expecting too much.
Yes.
And if you look at things like developing footwork and things like that as well, you need to just kind of slow everything down, par it down, and just kind of build each element on themselves. If you're trying to just like jam everything through, okay, I'm going to do this crossover dribble attack, and you haven't put in the time and slowed everything down and really worked on the footwork and just diligently approached it, then you will never really develop it to the way that you really want to, or at least it will take you a very long time to get it there. So you just need to kind of slow everything down, take your time, and you will eventually get to the point where you need to be. If you rush things, you're not going to get there as fast as you think you are.
No.
Okay. Let's see. This one is,
don't forget this one.
Okay. You're just banging on the microphone here. Hold on. This one's from the 909 Productions, who says, "I'm a newly hired high school coach in a small town, and I wanted to know if I should be focusing on personal player development during my practices, which are 5 times a week for an hour and a half, or should I focus on development of team more? Thanks, Coach A."
Coach, this is kind of my take on your question. Number one, when is all of this happening? If you're in a situation like in season, you do want to take and commit a part of your practice to developing some of those skills. But as well as anybody else is that you also have to prepare yourself for an offense, man and zone. You have to prepare what you're going to do on defense. What am I going to do versus the press? And so there are a lot of things to get in that time. I would take and spend more time in the off season, if you can, helping those young people develop those things that you want them to be able to do when it's time to play on your team. And I think that's one of the difficulties of being a coach and a high school coach, is that you're a limited amount of time. You have so much information that you have to impart to the kids about offense, defense, presses, and all of that kind of inbound plays. So during the season, I would commit maybe 15 minutes, and maybe you're getting just a few minutes of several different things, and maybe change it from day to day. But in the reality, skill development is going to happen and should happen in the off season. That's where you're the most effective with it, because you can spend more time, they can spend more time. And so that's what I would recommend.
I would say too that you need to stress with your players that it's up to them to develop their skills.
Right.
If they're just relying on you or they're relying on stuff that you're going to do during the season,
Right.
then that's kind of not a good approach. You want to stress with them that they need to be kind of in charge, their own best coach,
Yeah.
working on the off season. Maybe you give them a program that they can work on. And I think even when you get into season, maybe you have like a few kind of polishing type of
Sure.
drills or ball handling or shooting or whatever kind of things that you use kind of as a dialing in or polishing tool for all the players
Right.
that they can use. But I don't think that you want to spend way too much time on skill development because that's kind of up to the player. I mean,
Well,
and
here,
especially the higher levels that you go,
right.
the coach is going to have expectations of you as a package.
Right.
They're not going to be there to be like, oh, I'm going to hold your hand and we're going to make you this great shooter. That's usually not the case. They want you to be a great shooter, and then they put you in the team situation to make that kind of the best situation it can for everybody.
Right. Well, one of the other things that happens in this scenario too is that if you commit too much time to the development of your players, usually they're going to start off really slow and they're going to probably lose games that they might have otherwise won just because they haven't got the experience. Maybe all the tools are not there. So if you work on that in the off season or even individually during the season, I can remember a lot of years ago when I was coaching varsity basketball, what I would do is oftentimes I would take and meet a player in the morning before classes, and we'd spend 10, 15 minutes and we'd work on these different skills. And then when they came to practice, then we were focusing on the whole team thing. And so it's going to be a real challenge for you, Coach, but you're going to enjoy it all.
Yeah, think more long range, I
think long range, because one of the things is that the skills, as you already know, I'm sure, is that the skills don't happen overnight. It takes time for them to develop those things. And so that's the way I would go about it.
All right. This one is from
By the
JJ.
way, good luck.
Yeah, this one's from JJ Buckets, who says, after coming off screens for the pass and shoot, I have trouble setting my feet for a good and quick shot. Any tips on how to improve my footwork?
Yeah, big time.
If you watch our footwork for shooting videos, just the 1-2 footwork where it's just bang bang up, stop, gather footwork. That's really going to be what's going to give you the rhythm. It's going to take care of a bunch of business before you need to go up into your shot.
Right.
It's just really the best approach. It'll get you low into the shot so you can go low to high instead of kind of going high, low, high. It's just the most efficient, it's the quickest, most balanced approach that you can do.
Right. And you know, the thing that is really interesting is that when you come off of screens, oftentimes you're trying to figure out where the defense is and what you have to do. But if you're using that 1-2 footwork, you can either get up into your shot, or if they show in front of you out of the 1-2 footwork, you can actually execute counter moves that allow you to offset that.
All right,
hang on. There was another for you mentioned quick shot there. One of the things that we always teach is that we teach efficient shots versus quick shots, and we want them to be very efficient. That there's no lost movement through lost time through lost movement, and there's no sense in trying to make it so fast that you really haven't got control of the basketball. That's really an important part of shooting.
Yeah, I mean, efficiency eliminates variables, which will make your shot actually faster and quicker anyways. Yeah. Doing the footwork the way that we explain it, doing the 1-2, that actually will get a lot of kind of, like I said, business out of the way before you even really get into your shot, which is great. But the other thing is that you should never rush your feet.
Exactly.
Because your feet, that like we said before, that's kind of like your power and your rhythm and all that.
And your balance. I mean, that's so important to be very stable and balanced when you shoot that basketball. One of the things that happens is that sometimes when you are jumping into that shot, did I jump in on you, Casey?
Oh, you bogarted that one hard.
Okay.
No, go for it.
All right. But bogarted, I haven't heard that before. But the thing is that by using that kind of footwork instead of some people like the little short hop, we don't have any difficulty with that hop if that's the way it has to be at that particular moment. We like the idea, though, that you set that inside foot down and you stop most of your momentum that's going in that direction, and the other foot comes around and kind of cleans it up and gets you stable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a long checklist of reasons why we prefer the 1-2, and you know, like we said, or like you said, it's not something that you necessarily need to do exclusively. We think it should be your primary approach,
Right.
just because of all the factors that it's more on balance. It's going to get you set. It's going to translate that horizontal momentum into vertical momentum. It's going to be quicker. I mean, there's a ton of reasons. It helps generate the rhythm. It helps get half or part of the shot out of the way before you even really go up into it.
Yep.
It keeps you low to high instead of high low to high.
Well,
I mean, there's a long list.
Well, and the final number on that list, which is really important, is oftentimes somebody shows in front of you so quickly and you're kind of surprised. It gives you the element of being able to counter
Yeah.
their particular movement because you've got the footwork to do that.
Okay, and we can talk more about that too if you guys want, but you can also check out our videos as
Okay.
well. This one's from our buddy Nate Thompson, who is at NateT_AF on Twitter. He says, I can only do my step back with my forward foot being my right foot because I'm a staggered shooter. My right foot is usually more forward than my left when I shoot. So how do I shoot when I need to step back the other way and push off my left foot, and my left foot is in front instead of my right? Well,
Okay.
that's all like footwork.
Yeah, it is.
That's something you need to slow down and par down and really just work diligently on getting that down. And it's not that you have to have that 1 foot forward if you're stepping with it. You need to step into your shooting stance.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
If you're not stepping into your shooting stance, that means the footwork is not right where it needs to be. And we always teach that you should have this staggered turn towards the basket because you're shooting with one arm essentially. And so you need to do that. Your arm isn't in the middle of your body. So you need to work on your step back, just the footwork and kind of stepping back into what your shooting stance is going to be. Right.
Okay, let me add a little bit to that.
Right, quickly.
Nathan, one of the things that we teach people who are going to their through their, let's say, stopping with their left foot, is that we use a little scissor dribble there because we can get into that shot a little quicker. We also use a flat back dribble. And if you want to see what those look like, check out some of our videos on that. But we find that when you're going to your strong hand and you're stopping with your right, that footwork is much easier than it is if you're going to the left because you have to rotate your body almost 180 degrees to be ready to shoot it. So by using that scissor move, which we call a reverse crackback, a crack, let's see, reverse crack, yeah. Then that allows you to be able to get into that shot quicker. So here's what that looks like just real quick. We're going to take and stop on the outside foot instead of the left foot. We'll stop on the right. And then we scissor back through our legs and we're ready to shoot the ball right now.
All right. We have to jump into the lightning round because, people showed up at the end of our show here, but we're going to do quick answers to your guys' questions. Okay. Let's see. This one is from Baller482 NBA Live 15, #1 resource. How do you be more aggressive in games? That's a mental change that you need to have. You need to mentally tell yourself that you're going to be more aggressive.
Well, yeah, and sometimes that's a roadblock for some of us because we're afraid we'll take fouls. Well, listen, you're going to take fouls no matter what. Just got to keep them under control. When you get into that situation where you've got 3 and 4, now you got to back off that aggressiveness a little bit. Now, aggressiveness doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be physical and fouling and taking cheap shots and things like that, but you're able to physically use your body to move other people around and that sort of thing.
Get your skills where they need to be, and then up the intensity, and you will be fine. Okay, this one is from Ivory Green. He says, how do you guys feel about Frank Kaminsky and where will he land in the draft? I mean, he's great.
He's really a good player.
He's probably not going to be able to play inside quite the way that he does right now. But he's kind of like that stretch forward type of guy.
Yeah, he really is. Probably one of the biggest problems for him is the fact that there are not many really true centers or post players in the NBA today. They have to be able to step away.
But that's what he does.
He can do.
Yeah.
He can do that. He can step away. In fact, I read someplace where when he was in high school, he was actually a point guard. So he has really good ball skills.
I mean, we were watching him the other night during the game, and he's kind of like Dirk Nowitzki-esque, I guess, because he can pull up and make that nice shot, and he's got dribble skills, and he's 7 feet tall. So
yeah, I mean, and his length is just incredible.
And his mom is like 6'4".
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. This one is from Johnny Justice, who says, my AAU team tryouts are Saturday. What aspects of my game should I work on? I'm pretty good all around. I'm just little. I'm 15 and 5'5", 122. Any way that I should work on, anything I should work on during the week and when, because I don't want to be drained Saturday. Okay, if you're just starting your work now, that's not a great thing.
Yeah.
You just need to go out there and play how you play, not try to play beyond your abilities. And then I would also say, go check out our videos on
Make the team.
And we have, our personal video. Then we have some videos from Casey Hill, who's the head coach of the Santa Cruz Warriors, the D-League team of the Golden State Warriors. So check that out. But like we said, you can't do too much right now. You need to just go out there and play.
Yeah, exactly.
This one's from 12 O-Ring Demon, who says, how do you get faster and in shape? I had a pretty bad ankle injury when I ended up tearing ligaments and other stuff. I wasn't that fast at all before the injury, but now I'm really slow. Any exercises to get in shape, increase speed? Number one, make sure you're doing what your doctor says, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then the other thing is that you have to put in the work. That's really how you get faster and more in shape. We would suggest that you check out our vertical jump series on our videos and the vertical jump handbook, because it won't just help you with your vertical, it will also help you with your athleticism and getting in shape.
And your explosiveness, that is really important for you.
Let's see. Mr. Thunderbird asks, does a coach like someone who is good at everything or is great at one or two things? Great at everything.
Yeah.
Or good at everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want a player that you can just stick in and he can do what he can do. And I mean, if you have somebody that can do one or two things, that's what the other team's going to shut down.
Well, yeah, as soon as they figure out what that one or two things are, then they're going to focus on that to try and keep that person from being effective. So by being able to do a lot of things, that really makes you a much more valuable player. Now, does that mean that you wouldn't want one of those guys that can do those one or two things? Well, they're okay too, especially if they can shoot the ball.
All right, here, we're going to go back to Nate Thompson on Twitter. Nate says, how do you get rebounds as a smaller guy? Fundamental rebounding tips.
Okay, the fundamental rebounding tips for us is learn how to block people off or box them out. One of the things that I find is that coaches oftentimes will tell you, block that guy out, but they don't take the time to really show you how to do that. And so if you take the time to learn about footwork and how to react to what they do with their footwork, and you get your body turned on them, then you're going to find that you're much more effective as a rebounder. One of the things that just drives me berserk regarding rebounding is our players who turn and then they reach down and they hold the player with their arms out here behind. And in a reality, officials should be calling that, because if that person's trying to get around you and you're holding them, that should be a call. What we really like is we like to have those hands up here,
with the elbows out,
and the elbows here, and those elbows help us control that person at the chest where they're trying to work around us. Not only that,
his elbows are sharp and they don't feel good in your chest at all.
No, then the other things is your hands are closer to the basketball so that you can.
And it doesn't look like a foul either. Like if I have my hands here, that doesn't look like a foul. If I have my hand like this, that's a foul.
Exactly.
Because I'm holding that guy.
So those things are really important as far as rebounding is concerned.
But I think, again, it comes down to footwork. Get your cross step, seal step in place. Go out and meet that guy. You don't just wait, and you don't just go and turn. You locate that guy, you seal him, and then you get him on the block out. And then you go after the ball.
I'm going to take a moment here, Casey, to kind of go a little further. And I know we're running out of time. And that one right there, we want to make sure that we get to today. One of the things that's really important is the different techniques for blocking out when you are a ball side and when you're on help side. If you're a help side situation and the guy that you're responsible for is 10 or 15 feet away, we still have to account for him on the block out. And one of the things that we always teach is this: you always turn and you move one step toward that person and see what they're going to do. Some people will do nothing. They'll just stand there. But the other thing is that they're making a break to the basket, then you want to get yourself a position where you can block them off and keep them off the boards. Now that's help side. Ball side's a little easier, because you're closer to that person who's going to be going to the basket.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that if you watch NBA guys, a lot of times they just turn and look, and they'll run after the ball. Yeah. If you want to be a successful rebounder, especially if you're undersized, locate that guy, step towards him, see what he's going to do, use your footwork to seal them, behind you and then go after the ball.
Yeah.
Then they have to plow you over to get to it.
Yeah.
And typically you're going to be the guy that knows where it's going because you're actively kind of approaching your rebounding.
Right. One of the things that you can really help yourself with too is learn how to read rebounds.
Yeah.
And reading rebounds kind of means this, is that you take a look at a shot, and if that shot is flat, it's probably going to result in a longer rebound if they miss it. And if the shot has a nice arc on it, that basketball is going to tend to stick around the basket on the rebound. And the other thing is, if you're shooting from one wing or the other, then figure the studies they have done on this show that the rebound 70% of the time, more or less, goes to the opposite side of the floor. Those are rebound cues that can really help you become a rebounder. And finally, and then I'm going to shut this one off, is attack the basketball. One of the things I find so often is that players will go up with one hand and the ball, they get a hold of it, but the ball is tipped by somebody else's fingers and it's out of their hands. Attack the basketball with both hands.
Okay, I'm going to do a couple quick ones real quick, and then we'll get back to it, and we'll stop it. Okay, this one's from Ken Films, and he says, any advice for late bloomers? I started playing basketball seriously at 16 and feel behind in skill set compared to athletes who start at a young age. Okay, you just got to put the work in.
Yeah,
there's no secret pill or secret answer to that. You got to put the work in.
Yep.
Also, stop worrying about it because you can only do what you can do. So just work on developing your game.
You'll be surprised how quickly you come around with those skills as soon as you start working on them more intently. You'll be surprised.
Madeline Bokic says, hey, coach, what should I do to just be a better player in general and be a smarter player? Today at a game and we lost by 20 just because we weren't making smart decisions. Get more game experience.
Yeah. That game experience can just be like 2-on-2, 3-on-3 kind of games where situations arrive and you learn how to deal with them.
Get some game speed, game intensity practice in there as well, just so you know the situation and you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is from Josh Velarde, who says, hey, coach, when I play in a game, I have trouble shooting, but in practice, I'm good. I'm a very good shooter. How can I shoot better in games like my practices? Go watch our video. Make in practice, miss in games.
Exactly.
And we'll leave it at that. Okay.
Yeah.
That will answer your question. Let's see. This we're gonna do two more questions. This one is from VKJ Productions, who says, "Hey, coach, I do not know how to drive to the basket confidently. I'm a bit slow, but I play smart offense by utilizing the hop step. But ever since I joined Rep, I am hesitant to go all the way because I'm afraid to get the ball stolen. Lastly, at my tournament recently, the opponent was defending us with a very tough and aggressive 2-2-1 full court press. Do you have any tips or an effective press break to use? This is because we were working very hard just to have a little bit of space." Okay. That's a long one, but
it is.
Okay, scoot back.
Let's take it piece by piece.
This one, he's saying, I don't know how to drive to the basket confidently. I'm a bit slow, but I play smart offense. Okay, use your footwork.
Yeah.
Changes of speed, changes of direction,
right.
Sell the move. That's really what is going to get you kind of the more bang for your buck. Even if you're much slower, it doesn't really matter. If you sell a move, then you're going to be a step ahead of that guy.
Well, one additional thing is that don't be afraid of contact. Oftentimes players avoid contact, and when they do, that benefits the defense.
And here you're talking about using the hop step when you're attacking the basket. I don't think that's the best thing to use, because when you do that, you terminate kind of your ability to do anything.
Yeah, that's a stop.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really do anything after that. I mean, maybe you can pump fake or something like that, or shot fake, but you really shouldn't terminate your dribble on that kind of a step.
Right.
Check out our finishes at the rim. Check out our dribble attack series. Right. Check out our offensive skills moves. There's a bunch of stuff in there that I think will help you and just kind of build out your arsenal a little bit. And then he's talking about getting the ball stolen. That just means you need to be a little bit more protective of the ball.
Well, you have to learn to protect the ball. But even more importantly than that, if the ball is being stolen, it's possible that you're trying to drive through multiple people, and that's not going to work.
Yeah, you can't force it.
You can't force the situation. We teach everybody when they're attacking the basket, you have to be able to jump stop when you run into traffic, reverse turn, and give the ball back to somebody on the outside, because as you drive, defenses collapse to try and keep you from getting there.
Okay, super short answer to how do you break full court zone press?
You use passing, and one of the things that happens on those presses is that you allow the press to come and get you before you can get rid of the basketball. Use pass fakes,
Stay out of the corners.
Well,
stay away from half court.
Well, let me get a couple of other things that are important here. Don't allow them to get to where they've got two people on the basketball, and you do that through moving the basketball. Do not dribble against the zone press. What you want to do is pass against the press and get ball reversals. Ball reversals are huge against the press because it forces the defense to have to run a long ways to be able to get from one trap to the other. And typically you want to have somebody in the middle of that defense so you can throw the ball to them, and you get in situations there where you end up with 3-on-2.
And you and your teammates should be flashing to the open spots on the floor.
Yep.
There's going to be obvious open spots with a 2-2-1.
Yeah.
There's more to that too, but maybe we can hit you next time.
Okay.
This is our last question. This one's from Megawan0 in Google Plus. He says, I have a really big height advantage on other players, and my coach doesn't want me to dribble. He wants me to just grab the ball and shoot immediately. It has worked so far, but I really want to dribble at the games. What should I do?
Learn how to dribble the basketball.
Well, I think he says that he can. Is his coach? He doesn't want him to.
Well, that doesn't mean. No, let me just jump in. I don't want to take and contradict your coach. However, one of the things that we do, and I really believe in this sincerely, is that we teach people how to play basketball first. And then we leave all of those positioning things to your coach. But if you become this might work really well right now, but if you decide to play at another level, and maybe you're not big enough to play at the post, and then you don't have any ball skills or shooting skills from the perimeter, then you're not going to be a very effective player and probably won't have much of an opportunity to play very much. Learn how to dribble the basketball.
I would say this too. You should be looking for the scoring opportunities that make the most sense. Yep. and are going to get you the most, beneficial turnaround. And you also need to listen to your coach, but yep. just develop your all-around game.
Yeah, drill. That's right.
And you'll be good to go.
The whole game. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to cut it off right there, you guys. If we didn't get to your question, it's not because we don't like you. It's just because we ran out of time. We will be back next week. Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific time for another live show. If you have your questions that you want us to answer, then make sure that you're back here for that. Also tell your friends and family to come check us out because that helps us get more great guests on that we want to bring to you guys. Also, if you want to catch us during the week, you can find us on Twitter. We are at Shot Science. Facebook, we're Shot Science. Google Plus, Shot Science. All the places we are Shot Science.
Yeah.
Check us out on Snapchat because we're doing stuff on there every single day. And, you can follow stuff like our Final Four experience there. And Instagram, we're on that as well. So make sure you're following us on all those places. I know it's a lot, but we do cool things on all of them. And we occasionally run contests and stuff too, so you can win some stuff. But thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys next week.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
See ya.